power filled her with an energy she had never felt in the small Florida town where she'd been born. Winter Cove had its charms, but she'd felt as if she were growing up in a glass bubble, with everyone watching everything she was doing, every misstep she made. Here, she could make a monumental mistake and there were thousands of people who'd never have a clue about it. Not that she made that many mistakes. She lived a fairly sedate and uneventful life. No messy relationships, no wild nights, not even a speeding ticket. Sweet heaven, she was barely 26, and she was boring, she thought, with a sudden attack of dismay. Wasn't that precisely the fate she'd left home to escape? And wasn't that exactly what Marcel had been saying to her the week before when she'd turned down yet another blind date? She'd argued the point rather emphatically at the time, but she could see now that her boss had pegged her life exactly right. Fulfilling work that she loved was one thing. Having a life was something else entirely. And it was time she did something about grabbing one. Otherwise, all that independence she'd moved to Washington to claim would be totally wasted. Spurred on by the thought, she reached for the phone to call her best friend before she could change her mind. Kim Drake had a social life that a Hollywood starlet would envy. Emma, however, had never felt the slightest twinge of envy because she knew that the one thing Kim craved, a family, was still as elusive as ever. She called Emma after nearly every date for a post-mortem to analyze whether the latest man in her life could possibly be the one. So far, none had even passed Kim's 3 dates and he's out test. Their Sunday morning get-togethers at a trendy Georgetown coffee shop had become strategy sessions for meeting better candidates. Thus far, Emma had doled out plenty of advice on the topic to Kim, but followed none of it herself. Today, Emma intended to change that pattern. "Do we know anyone who has a swimming pool?" Kim asked plaintively as soon as she heard Emma's voice. "I'm sure any number of men in your life live in singles complexes with pools," Emma told her. "Given the disgustingly boring crop of men in my life at the moment, it's not worth it," Kim said. "I'd prefer to swelter. So what's up? I thought you were going to be hip-deep in dusty antiques today." "I am, and it's given me too much time to think." "Uh-oh. What's on your mind?" "I've decided I need a social life." "Well, hallelujah! Isn't that exactly what I've been saying for months now? Even Marcel, who's oblivious to most things that don't involve him, thinks you're a hermit," Kim said. "Do you want to go out tonight? I have a date with a congressional aide. I'm sure he has friends he could call. We could double." "Which date is this for you and the aide?" Emma asked, suspiciously. "Second. Why?" "That's okay, then." "What are you talking about?" Kim demanded. She sounded genuinely perplexed. "If it were your first date, then you wouldn't know yet whether his friends are likely to be awful," Emma explained patiently. "If it were your third, you'd probably be breaking up at the end of the evening, and that could put a real damper on things for those of us relegated to being witnesses." "I am not that predictable," Kim protested. "I could run through the list." Emma teased the woman she'd known since their first year of college, when they'd shared a dorm room. "We could start with Dirk, freshman year in college. I believe you made a list of his attributes and flaws after the second date and canceled the third. The pattern has been repeated more times than I can count." "God, I hate having a friend who knows my entire life inside out," Kim grumbled. "Do you want a date tonight or not?" Emma hesitated. "A congressional aide, huh?" "He's mine, but I imagine that's where his pool of available friends comes from." Emma hated politics. Living in the nation's capital had given her a jaundiced view of the men, and women, for that matter, who wielded power as if it were their God-given right. They might come to Washington full of high ideals, but it seldom took long for them to learn the art of backroom deal-making. As fascinating as it was to watch it all unfold, she had no desire to get too close to that particular fire.